to the Tracy Take. I am your co-host Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and we just want to give a huge congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. They proved us wrong. They proved a lot of people wrong. They proved a lot of people wrong. The people who probably are most excited about the Super Bowl victory are probably the bookies because a lot of people had the Eagles winning. And so I wanted to have a huge shout out to the Chiefs. A lot of people doubted them, and safe to say now that we are now in a new dynasty with another great quarterback. But we'll get into all that here in a second, but we just want to give a quick shout out to all of our new subscribers. We have had a bunch of subscribers since our Colts video came out. It's at about 12,000 views, just shy of 12,000 views. So if you have not seen that video, go check that video out. And also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and like this video, and leave a comment on what your thoughts were on the Super Bowl and all the fun festivities that come with Super Bowl weekend. So, but Ryan, that being said, what a game. I mean, it was a great game. It's funny to think it's like I think both teams played about, I think, as well as I think that you could play, especially the Chiefs in this offense in the second half. I mean, absolutely. I mean, just precision, absolute precision. Eric Bieniemy called a great game. Andy Reid called a great game. Patrick Mahomes is like, it's funny too. It's like just Tom Brady just retired, and it's like who's going to catch up to him? And now it's like Patrick Mahomes. Maybe, I mean, every year he's been a starter. Yeah. He's gone to an AFC Championship at minimum. It's already been to 3 Super Bowls. He already has 2. And he's what, 25?
26.
26? Yeah. So
I mean, if anybody's going to do it, it's him.
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, I hope he doesn't, with the way he plays and how he's able to improvise. I hope he doesn't come into injuries, because I want him to have as long of a career as Tom Brady's had. He is so fun to watch. Yeah. And there's one thing, too, that separates, like, from him.
And he's 27.
He's 27. Okay, that makes sense.
He'll be 28 next season.
Okay. But there's something that separates, like, him, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan. I'll even throw not Matt Ryan, Peyton Manning. I was thinking of Colts quarterbacks, and I don't know why I thought Matt Ryan. But Peyton Manning, and I'll even throw Aaron Rodgers in there a little bit. But their ability is, like, the play is called, and then they show up to the line, and their ability to read defenses and change the play and be like, hey, you are going to do this right here, and you're going to be open. And they just know it, and the improvisation that comes from it. It's amazing how great these guys are. And it separates them from guys who haven't won Super Bowls. Like, that's like going back to like Matt Ryan, they're a Falcons fan. I always feel like he wasn't great at that. It was like the play was called, and maybe he'll do a hot route if there's a specific thing. But he just went through his reads, and there was enough there's either enough reads or he's got to get rid of the ball.
So to me, that comes down to, especially at a young age, is the elite coaching that most of those guys have had. Aaron Rodgers, not quite as much as the other 3, but I think you look at Brady. Okay, they always had the next great offensive coordinator in the system, as well as Belichick just being arguably the greatest football coach ever. Peyton Manning, when they won the Super Bowl, Bruce Arians was his offensive coordinator, as well as Tony Dungy, who helped shoot the Tampa 2 defense.
And growing up with Archie Manning as your father, I mean, like, just talking football, it's like,
exactly. Yeah. And then it's like, I think you look at Patrick Mahomes, and it's all right. Well, he has Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy as his 2 go-to minds to kind of help him do that. And then you couple that with their ability to mold Patrick Mahomes' football mind with his physical talents and his competitiveness and will to win. Yeah. Like, they are top 5 in coaching quarterback duos already, like 6 years into his career. And it's just what these guys could accomplish together could be Patriot-esque over the previous 20 years. Like you said, I
mean, it kind of already is. It is. I mean, I can't think of too many other teams that have had something like, maybe the 90s Cowboys or something like that, where they went to 3 of 4 Super Bowls. or even the Bills during that same stretch where they went to 4 Super Bowls in a row. But even one thing quickly, I will with that, and we're talking about Eric Bieniemy. It's like I think he deserves a head coaching job, but at the same time, I really like the idea. Is like if it's not like a perfect fit, if he stays with the Chiefs, whenever Andy Reid retires, then it's like he's our guy. Like he's taking that over the head coaching job. Imagine that, like how great that would be for Mahomes' career, for Bieniemy's career, and for the Chiefs franchise, because they won't have to change any systems, they won't have to change anything. But that would be tough for him personally if there was a head coaching job that fit everything to say no to. Because he deserves it. He absolutely deserves it, and he called an absolutely great game. And another thing too, and I'm curious with this as well, but the Chiefs' offensive line dominated. Like Mahomes only had 180 yards passing, but he had a decent bit of yards running, and the way he was able to play the game and get drives, get first down, especially in that second half. But Isaiah Pacheco, he needs to buy all that offensive lineman a brand new car or something, because they were giving him holes for days, and he did a great job, super quick. He's going to be a great running back in the league for them over the next several years. But that offensive line dominated, and that was the one thing I remember I talked about. I was like, I think this Eagles defensive line is going to crush them. But no, Orlando Brown, who we're going to talk a lot about later, and that offensive line crushed them. No sacks whatsoever.
That was my big thing going into the game, was like the one thing the Chiefs have to do is like they have to win the offensive line. And I'm going to give myself another pat on the back. They did a lot of the things that I talked about. They chipped on Andrew Wiley's side. They only had one offensive line penalty, and I think that was a false start on Orlando Brown. They didn't have any holdings, didn't allow. They allowed some pressures, but no sacks. And part of that was Pat Mahomes' elusiveness. But then, especially at the end of the game, the final touchdown that the Chiefs scored to go up 8 points was they had an overload blitz on the left side, so they just ran Sky Moore on a little out route from a halfback or a H-back spot, and he just got right behind the defense. As much as I think Pat Mahomes deserved that MVP, the scheming and the offensive play calling and game plan by Andy Reid was absolutely genius. I watched it at Mom and Dad's house, and Dad and I were just talking about, like, there are just sometimes like Andy Reid will draw up plays and it just works to perfection, and you're like, that is just beautiful. Like, it's just beautiful. Like, and it's like almost like he's playing checkers, but like with both sides, right? And he's like, okay, well, if I put this guy here, I'll put this guy here, and then it's hat on hat, and we're 15 yards down the field. And like some of the blocking schemes that they pulled out were just phenomenal. And you would see Isaiah Pacheco, like, well, it's a halfback read basically, and he just, all right, well, there's the hole, and I'll just, like, he just goes.
He's so quick, he can just cut through any one of them.
And so it was a masterful offensive performance by the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't even want to take anything away from the Eagles, because they played hard for 60 minutes. It's just one of those things that, like, when you play a great coach and quarterback combo, you can dominate for 45 minutes. Right? And like the Eagles dominated the first half, but they were only up by 10, and they only scored 11 second half points. And it's like, okay, well, you lost. Like, that's such a hard pill to swallow when you dominate for the majority of the game.
And what's crazy too is, like, the Eagles, they only had the ball. Really, they only had the ball 3 times in the second half, and they got 2 possessions out of it. 2 points out of it. The field goal and then the touchdown with 2-point conversion. And then they had a random 3 and out, which then allowed the Chiefs then to go back down and score just like how they were doing. Got an entire second half to go up 8. But I don't really think they played a bad game. I think the defense, it's hard to say the defense.
Well,
it's weird saying the defense fell apart, because they dominated in the first half. The Chiefs struggled outside of that first drive to score a touchdown. But then it's like they just kept getting, like, Andy Reid just kept calling the best play.
There's a play I want to highlight in a second, but it's not even like they had blown assignments or like they were just getting totally outplayed and like getting beat on assignments. It's just, all right, well, like we're gonna play over under on Travis Kelce. If Pat Mahomes can throw it 4 inches off this guy's fingertips and Kelce catches it, there's a safety right behind him to hit it, but that's a 15-yard gain. Yeah. They did that a couple times. Like they just did really well. And the thing that actually was most surprising to me was what you said, was how dominant that Chiefs offensive line was, but in the run game. If you would have told me that a team was going to outrun the other by 45 or 50 yards, I'd be like, oh man, the Eagles must have had a day. And it's like, no, the Chiefs came out and ran for 180 yards on them. And it's just like, okay, well, that's a really tough pill to swallow as an Eagles fan, because your defense has been so good all year. And it's like, it's not like they were that bad today or yesterday. They just played an offense that was even better.
Yeah. It really was. It was a phenomenal game. And I think that's one thing to talk about, because I think now it's time to transition to what everyone else is talking about. And it was a phenomenal game.
Well,
in a game like that, go ahead.
Before you go, the play that I wanted to highlight was the Kadarius Toney touchdown. So
yes, that was a great play.
Well,
that's the play I was wanting to talk about. No.
It was a beautiful play design in the fact that Andy Reid had Kadarius Toney run a full motion against the same zone coverage prior in the half, and they didn't actually rotate. The corner just sucked in on the slot, and then they shifted in because they're in zone. So the corner didn't actually go with them. So they just had everybody. They faked the Kadarius Toney motion. Everybody shifts over on the defense, and now there's Kadarius Toney goes back out wide, and there's nobody there. Mm-hmm. And it was just a beautiful, like, they ran this play, and then they saw what they did. So there was like, all right, well, we'll just come back and do this. And then it was the easiest touchdown possibly in Super Bowl history until the Sky Moore blitz beater that they threw the next drive. But sorry to interrupt. Let's get to what everybody else is talking about right now.
Well, I just want to highlight that because how good a game it was, and it literally doesn't just come down to the one play, or like one play doesn't decide an entire game. Mm-hmm. And we haven't even talked about this. I think we both purposely were trying not to talk about this before, but it's like, we've seen cornerbacks and receivers have that type of contact, those types of pulls. I mean, if that's a holding call, then they need to have a holding call on nearly every single play. And for me, in that situation, I think it just kind of put a bow on top on like what the whole theme it seemed like was for this entire season.
So, yeah, no, I agree. For me, okay, it was, by definition, it was holding. He grabbed his back plate. No one is arguing that. James Bradbury himself even admitted to it. It's like, I grabbed him. Yeah. Was it so egregious that it really impacted the play? Or with a minute 45 left of possibly the greatest Super Bowl ever, do you really want to make that call? And it's like, I get, by definition, it is holding. However, maybe just let him play a little bit more. The other thing I will say, earlier in the game, I think it was second quarter, Chiefs got the ball, and it was 3rd and 8, and there was an egregious pass interference no call. James Bradbury on Juju Smith-Schuster, same matchup. Bradbury grabs his left arm as he's running a crosser from left to right, grabs his left arm and spins him. Patrick Mahomes nearly hits him in the chin strap with the football. That's how accurate of a ball it was. And it was like, okay, they didn't call that one, where it's like over the middle of the field. There's nobody else there. He clearly spins them. They're not going to call that one. And then with a minute 45 left, you're going to call, okay, so he grabbed his back plate and maybe held him up off the line for a millisecond.
Yeah.
And it's like that for me is where the discrepancy comes in, because by definition it is holding.
Well, and that's my thing, because I've never been a guy being like like you can't make that call there. It's like you don't call a penalty there, even though if it is a penalty. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. But in one of those, I would definitely say judgment, subjective type calls. They had been letting them play all game. That call specifically right there that you just mentioned was a no call. They'd been rough. They'd been tough. Devontae Smith had a couple potential pass interference calls that you could go, maybe a couple rakes across the arms that they just let them play. Yeah. And you know what? It was fun. They were like only the most egregious, like we're going to do.
I would rather let them play too physical than not enough.
Yeah. Well, and then at the time when it's only the most important time of the whole entire season, you're going to make that call there. And everyone knew, like watching it, everyone knew exactly what that meant. It meant the Eagles, like a potential comeback, Jalen Hurts, the team that had been considered the best team all season long, was not going to have an opportunity to have 90 seconds go down, try and tie up the field goal, maybe try and even take the Super Bowl lead. And that's what sucks too about it, because we just talked about how great the Chiefs played, how great the coaching scheme was, and honestly, and we haven't even talked too much even about how great Jalen Hurts played, how great the Eagles obviously played. That entire offense, that entire team played well. I mean, it was one of those.
It was one of the best Super Bowls I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
And this will be remembered for this. And then going on all season with the scripts, it's rigged, and the NFL has a lot of, I think, I don't want to say like soul searching this offseason. Yeah. Because there's a lot of things, and we had a fun conversation before this, but there's a lot of other things, just basic rules that were the entire theme of this whole season, how people complained about roughing the passer. Now defensive holding now and pass interference calls, what is, what isn't. Like offensive pass interference is starting to get called a little bit more, some of which I think should, because for a long time there was a lot of extension. But now even
offensive pass interference should be a loss of down, but that's a different debate.
That's a different debate as well. But even then now, though, there was several questionable decisions made about if it was a catch or if it wasn't a catch, which would be the most basic thing to decide. Like those should be black and white things. And yet there were 3 clear instances with the Eagles where all 3 of them were like completely up for debate. Like we have no idea what is a catch at all. And the NFL needs to, like, they need to have some soul searching on how on the rules, on the officiating, getting things as clear as possible. Because these conspiracy theory tweets or talking points that I think some of which are very valid, like you have some points, are not good for the league, are not good for the brand.
No, yeah. And so let's just go ahead and let's dive right into it. Let's talk about those 3 instances, and then we'll get into some of the other rules that we think need to be evolved/changed. Just kind of what we witnessed throughout the season, and then one big rule that I think needs to come into play after yesterday's game. Yeah. Let's start with the Miles Sanders catch. That was a fumble and then was overturned after. So I agree with the overturning. I don't think that was a catch. I think that is he gets the ball in his hands and 2 feet are down, and in less than a second, a defender hits him and the ball's popped loose. To me, that's a PBU, and then it's next play. It's really tight, and if he tucks the football or takes another step, that is a fumble. Yeah. However, I just think he just catches it, gets hit, and then drops it. I don't think he had time to complete the process of a catch.
And for me, when I see that one, I don't disagree with that decision. My thing is, though, is I've seen that in the end zone before, and they ruled a catch and they ruled a touchdown. And the rule is when it's in the end zone and as soon as catch 2 feet, play is dead. Which and I absolutely get that. But then at the same time, though, you have to make a football move, or you have to have the ball all the way down to the ground for completion, which is the catch we're about to get to here in a second as well. Yeah. And for me, it's almost like when you they need to do something about replays. They almost need to have like a time limit on it, because with that one took a decent bit of time. The Dallas Goddard one, which is the second one, I think I saw that one took 5.5 minutes for them to say like it was a catch. It should be like, you've got 2 minutes, and if you can't decide in 2 minutes on if it's a catch or not, or like then the call on the field stands. Like let's move the game on, because there's so many. You can dissect anything during slow mo.
I don't care how long they take. As long as they get the call correct, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of debate on like what is correct and what's not correct. Especially in the Super Bowl, I don't mind them taking a little bit of extra time. For the Dallas Goddard catch, that one. So there are some angles. It looks like his right foot is on the ground when he gains possession, and then there's other angles that looks like his right foot is off the ground at some angles, and that one was called a catch on the field, and I think that stands.
No,
like I think that was the right call. Really on the field stands, play on.
Yeah,
right.
And I agree with that though. I agree with that. My issue is like they dissect it down in slow mo, and all three the Miles Sanders catch, Dallas catch, the Devontae Smith catch. They take so long, and they look at it from such a slow-mo angle where it's not in real time. And sometimes slow-mo is good. Like to see like if he got 2 feet in or anything like that. But if there's a bobble move or something like that, they almost need to just put a time limit on it. And it's like, hey, if we don't have a clear and cut decision, because I agree with the rule, it has to be what's the phrasing? What's the phrasing that they use for overturning calls? Undisputable evidence. That it was a wrong call in the field. They should be able to see that within 2 minutes and be like, okay, that's what it is. If you hit that 2 minute time cap.
This is one of the things that they've run into in the past. They don't necessarily get all the angles right away. So that is one of the things
I don't see how now. So that's nothing the NFL needs to figure out then. How do you not in 2023? How do you not have the TVs? They're able to show it. They're able to show 6 different camera angles in 30 seconds.
Yeah, but that's on the net. That's with the networks. That's not with the referees. I'm not blaming the referees on that. Like they can only get as many views as the NFL allows to see them. But the NFL needs to be like, hey, we need to have every single view of that play. It's like, because also too, to think about it, like now let's like with the Devontae Smith catch. Yeah, there was a good 15 to 20 seconds, I would say, from when that catch was made to then when he's running up to when she even show a replay of the catch, and then the Eagles are lining up to snap it, and they wave down, hey, let's call it. How do them by the 20 seconds, they don't have multiple clips. And also then too, the refs have to go up and be like, hey, we're reviewing the play on the field. Then he has to run through it. That is, I don't want to try and be exaggerative or hyperbolic, but that's 45 to 60 seconds. Yeah. Right? Well, they actually had extra time. That the Devontae Smith catch is a little different because there's a couple things to be debated on that one. But
no, sorry. And by that point, I mean that one specifically on how do they not have every single angle of the catch already sent to the ref? Like, and why is it taking so long?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when it takes that long, I think maybe it gets to the point that it's like there is not clear-cut evidence that the call was wrong.
Yeah.
And be like, we are now looking for a specific angle to like prove us wrong, and maybe you're overthinking it.
Well, the one thing that they were trying to look at was the angle from the other side, and it took broadcast a couple minutes to even get that angle up. Because they have them from the backside, which is the only angle I can find on the internet right now. Yeah. Or else we'd be looking at it. And they were just trying to find the other side to see what happens to the ball when Devontae Smith hits the ground. And for me, this is where things get a little like weird because he catches it, bobbles it a little bit, pins it on his helmet. He takes 2 steps and then his knee hits out of bounds. Takes two possibly 3 steps. From the angle that I have on my computer, you can't totally see his feet. It looks like he takes 2 steps and then his knee hits.
Yeah.
And then the ball hits the ground and moves. And so also his knee hits out of bounds, not inbounds.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, so he bobbles it. So then when do you deem that he has full possession? Is it the first grasp or is it the double clutch? And then when the ball hits the ground, when the ball hits the ground, it clearly moves. It clearly moves into his body,
no one's denying
and
that.
it ends up in his left hand, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, when do you deem he has possession? Then when do, like, he has to have possession for the feet inbounds to count. And then how many steps after 2 is deemed a football move? I think there's so many.
Yeah.
The roughing the passer thing to me is I'm going to relate it back. It's gotten outrageous because they have so many different things to think about, right? Like, you have to hit the quarterback, but you can't land on him. You can't spin him down too hard. And if you hit him anywhere above the neck, it's a penalty. So it's like, okay, you can hit him in this box, not hard, but enough to bring him down. And so it's like, so now you have this rule with the catch, and it's like, okay, so you have to maintain possession with 2 feet inbound, do the cha-cha slide, and then spin around, and then if it moves, it might be a catch. That to me is where there's just so many different layers to this, and I think the NFL needs to approach it this offseason and just dumb it down and be like, if he has 2 feet inbounds and then he takes a third step, I don't care what happens after that. It's either a fumble or it's a completed catch if the ball or the play continues out of bounds. And because then I think we wouldn't have these controversies anymore. Because even if there's questionable calls on both sides, like, that might not have been a catch, that might have been a catch. Well, okay, 2 feet inbounds, he took a third step, or his knee hits, which I would count the knee as like a half step in this scenario. And it's like, and for me, I think that is like, okay, so he had possession for 2.5 steps, do a little basketball layup there, and maybe that counts as a catch.
Yeah,
it's the Smith catch is the most controversial of all 3 of these.
Oh yeah, well, and I'm in the category of that's a catch. I'm in the category that's a catch. Clearly, because I think he got 3 feet inbounds. I think he had possession, 2 feet, then a third. And actually, I'll disagree with some people saying this, where it's like the knee's out of bounds, meaning that like now he's down, the play is dead. Because I think now there's a consistent trend of people of this happening. Like, you have to complete the catch to the ground with the 2 steps, and so that includes if your body is falling. But in this, if your body's falling, then your body hits and the ball comes loose, and that's not a catch. But in this instance, though, to me, it doesn't matter if the ball moves, because I think he had 3 steps in bounds. That he met all the minimum requirements: 2 steps, possession, then and then he's making football moves because he's trying to keep moving forward as well, and he's got a guy on him with clear pass interference that was missed also. But and to me, and this is where it's like the NFL, it just needs to kind of do what you said, but make everything as black and white as possible.
As possible.
Like, that should have been. The other ones I can understand. I agree with Miles Sanders being an incomplete pass, even though I think if that was in the end zone, I think they call it a touchdown. Dallas Goedert, I've seen angles to where it's an incomplete pass, but I agree with the fact that the call stood just because you don't, like, it wasn't clear, undisputed evidence. I wish it didn't take 5.5 minutes and they're nitpicking every single angle. It should be like, okay, this after a time limit, it should be undisputed. But with this catch, though, and this to me, I think is the perfect example, because that review, I think, took several minutes as well. And how do they not have, like you said, they were waiting on the one camera angle. How do they not have that immediately? I mean, there's hundreds of cameras that they have that the NFL runs. It's their show. Who cares if the broadcasting network gets it a couple minutes late? They should have everything available for that referee and for people in New York to make the decision. And then in this catch, it's like, how is that? Like, there's everything about it. You have to make clear contact to the ground, but it's like clear
you have
possession.
to maintain clear possession through through the ground. And to me, that's where it gets fuzzy. Because at the beginning of the catch, he's bobbling it. And then he gets possession. And then at the end of the catch, it hits the ground and clearly shifts.
Okay.
Right.
So all right.
And that's where I'm like, there's so many different things going on.
Scenario. Jakobi Meyers, he does a little slant route. Mac Jones throws it to him. He catches it 2 steps. He starts to look forward, and so he's making a football move, but he doesn't take another step because he sees someone's about to hit him, so he clinches up, bracing for that. So as he stops, he gets hit. As he falls, the ball comes loose, and by loose, I mean like bobbles and hits the ground. Is that a catch? And that's just 2 steps, by the way.
Okay, so let me get this right. Slant over the middle. He catches it, right?
Yeah.
And then starts to turn without taking another step.
Yeah, well, he starts to turn while doing his 2 steps. Yeah. His qualification. At that same time, he sees linebacker come over the middle. That's about to drill him. Before he takes a 3rd step, he just kind of clinches up, something like how Julian Edelman or Wes Welker would do to get pass interference calls. You know all about that.
They didn't really
clinches
pass
up.
Interference calls. They would usually take.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But then before that 3rd step, he clearly has possession of the ball, cradles up, gets hit as he's falling down. Just his body hitting the ground just makes the ball a little loose, just like how we've seen how, like quarterbacks, they get like the ball comes loose while they get sacked, but they just kind of land on it and they just maintain possession. But then the ball hits the ground, but it clearly does come loose and hits the ground. But he stays on top of it. It's not a fumble or anything like that.
Yeah, that's hard. To me, it's probably an incomplete pass. He never takes a 3rd step. He does make a football move of turning upfield.
Yeah.
But in the same situation as Miles Sanders, he is also catching the ball and turning upfield at the same time.
Well, he was in the air when he was turning. Both feet landed.
Yeah, yes, but so he is in the air, both feet land, and he's turning as he's getting hit.
Yeah.
Right. And so to me, that's an incomplete pass.
Okay, but in the Jakobi Meyers one, where it's clearly catches the ball, takes his 2 steps, and while doing the 2 steps, he's looking upfield for his football move, and then he braces for a hit. And I feel like this isn't a weird scenario, like an exaggerated scenario, because I think this happens a lot.
You're confusing 2 steps with 2 feet.
No, I'm bringing all this back though now to then the Devontae Smith catch. He gets 3 feet inbound, 3 steps inbound, and then everyone's talking about how the ball is moving after he hits out of bounds, and they say it's an incomplete pass
because he's bobbling it for the first initial part of the catch.
He has clear possession. I mean, maybe if I'm just missing it,
he bobbles it at first, and then he gets, in my opinion, 2.5 steps down because I count the knee, and then he hits out of bounds, and the ball moves. That's where this debate will probably forever go on, because there will never ever be enough black and white answers on what is a catch and what isn't. Because some people will look at that and be like, well, he bobbles it, right? And then he doesn't survive the ground, so it's incomplete. And then some people will be like, yeah, but he had possession with 2 feet in bounds. So then it's
and that's why just the way I look at it and see, maybe I got to go back and watch the video again. But to me, I think he has possession of the ball and gets 3 feet in bounds. Yeah. And at that point, then it shouldn't matter. Yeah. If the ball comes loose. But and it's a good point, as it's a forever conversation. I really hope the NFL addresses this stuff in the offseason, because it's tarnishing kind of the experience, I would say, as fans. And I think we're all really feeling that from here. So
I want to switch gears and talk about a couple other rules. One that was very apparent last night. So it's called assisting the runner. So this was actually a penalty back in the early days of the NFL, and they actually removed it, made it legal in 2005 to push the runner and advance them forward. There are a couple stipulations, like in scrums, you're not allowed to go in and pull other players off the pile, nor are you allowed to throw players into a pile. It's basically a rugby scrum. You have to just use your body to push. And this was something that the Philadelphia Eagles did to perfection.
All season
not just yesterday, but all season long. Jalen Hurts in the regular season was 30 of 34 on quarterback sneaks.
Yeah, that was insane.
Which, he was averaging 1.75 yards per QB sneak.
Yeah,
and that's just nuts. So
what's your point with the rule? Because that's a rule now. I'm pretty sure they made that legal. Like, are you talking about their QB sneak?
Yeah. I think they're going to bring back in the assisting the runner penalty. One, it's actually not safe for a lot of players, especially defensive linemen. The reason why the rule was in place initially was a lot of people were rolling ankles, breaking ankles, because if you have 11 on 11, literally in a ball, people are bound to get stepped on, rolled up on, folded over, as well as it actually creates an extremely unfair advantage for the offense, as they, very apparent to the Eagles, they win it at a 90+% rate. And besides the injury concerns, the initial point of the rule was to prevent offenses from gaining unfair yards. So
I disagree. I love it. I actually love it when Eagles started doing that, and then a lot of teams started doing it. I love the fact that it's like we know what play we're doing. We know what play we're doing, and you can't stop it. I actually really like that. Like, just to go get a yard or to go get a touchdown. It's so hard to score. Well, for the Eagles, it wasn't that difficult this year, but it's hard to score in the NFL. These are some of the top athletes in the world. To get to the 1 yard line, like, to have that surefire play, I think you should do it. Then it's a full team effort. Like, you just line up your running backs and your fullbacks, and hey, if you got the quarterback that's willing to take the hits to do it, like whatever it is for the team, I think you should be allowed to do it. Now, I agree that on the one part of the rule that it's still illegal. I think I even saw someone got a flag for it, but you can't pull people forward. You can only push them from behind. I agree with that. I don't really know why I agree with it. I just do. I think maybe that one is definitely more dangerous for players in general, because you get these 350-pound linemen just grabbing this 190-pound running back and just slinging him forward. I could see how that could be one dangerous for a lot of people involved. But the pushing, though, in these scrum situations, it brings back to me this kind of like that smash mouth, hard, rigid football. Like, you see those slow-mos of like Jason Kelce after he hikes it, then he just goes straight beneath the defender's helmets, taking out his body and his legs. And then you have Jalen Hurts coming over the top, and then all the running backs pushing. To me, I like it. I think it brings back kind of old-timey football, and I think it's a good way to kind of combat some of these high, fast, power defenses who are mainly built to go up against these kind of West Coast-style offenses. And that's why I think the Eagles did so well this year, is they were able to dominate the offensive line and primarily run the ball majority of the season. And we're starting to see a lot more teams do that. I personally like the rule. I think that is should be allowed for offenses.
This isn't necessarily a rule that I agree with or disagree with. I see why teams want it to be legal, and I see why it should be illegal. However, there are a lot of rumors going around that the NFL is going to reinstate this rule come next season.
That would be a buzzkill.
Yeah, I mean,
be a buzzkill.
Yeah,
I don't know. To me, I think it just tampers away from. It's just Big Brother telling like what all these little teams to do and controlling how they play the game. When in actuality, it's kind of I think it allows for more creativity, especially on like a 3rd and 5. Be like, we don't have to go get the first down. We just need to get 2 or 3 yards. 3 or 4 yards. And so I think it opens up the entire game, allows for some, I think, more exciting football.
Yeah. I mean,
so I hope they don't. I just hope they don't.
Strategically, it's a really nice thing to have. there are very few teams in the NFL that can execute it like the Eagles can. That's just they have the best offensive line in football, or one of the best for a very long time. And so I just think that's an interesting one. There was one more rule that I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember it at this point. Was there? Do you remember what it was pre-show?
No, I didn't watch any of the pre-shows. Yeah.
Well, okay.
I was hanging out with my baby.
Well, no, I meant before our show.
Oh, okay. Oh, the Super Bowl. Oh, okay. No, I was also hanging out with her with my baby before the show. So I think that's a good segue into our next section. So, but if you haven't already, now hit that subscribe button, and so you can see when Ryan and I get more content. And just like with the NFL as an organization, they have to do some soul searching. Going to have a lot of conversations. There are now 32 other organizations that are umbrellaed under the NFL, who are going to be making a lot of personnel decisions, and a lot of free agents are hitting the market now. And Ryan and I, we were just kind of wanted to touch a couple of the top ones. Well, we're going to both do our teams and then do the Bears, who have the most cap space available. No, I think it was. I think we eliminated that one.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, we had two that we eliminated. So
yeah,
I say let's start with the Bears.
I agree with the Bears because we just talked about how great the Chiefs' offensive line is, and their left tackle is going to be a free agent this year.
Yeah, he's going to make a lot of money. And you know who has a lot of cap space? The worst team in the NFL. The Chicago Bears with the number 1 overall pick, probably soon to be number 4, plus
lots of additional picks as well.
Additional picks.
Yeah. And so for me, and I think we both agree on this, Bears got to go after offensive line guys. And I think there's no better place to start than solidifying your left tackle for your young quarterback and paying him, whatever he wants. I think it would be upwards of probably $20 million, I would think, a year for left tackle. What did Trent Williams get? Because it would be.
I thought it was like 17.
Okay,
million.
So maybe they'll save him a couple bucks.
Oh yeah. No, I'm sorry. He has an average annual salary of $23 million.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So 23.5, 24 going up to Chicago. The Bears, as of right now, I think have like 66 in cap space, 68. And I think it's only going to go up as they make cuts. So somewhere in the mid 70s for that. And addressing the offensive line, I mean, they have to address a lot. But if you can get a surefire thing and not really make too big a dent in your cap space. I mean, so let's say it's $74 million in their cap space. You pay him $24. You still have $50 million in your cap space to go get other pieces.
Yeah. And you could probably do a little salary cap tampering, I guess you could call it, and bring it down. Really have his cap number be below 20. Give him a nice signing bonus and whatnot. So or you could make it front heavy. Take a little bit more this year, and then even free up even more cap space as he is still in his prime. Justin Fields is getting better, and you get more talent around. That's what, and so that to me, I think is what the Bears need to go and do. And there was another guy I think you were wanting to bring up that the Bears should also go get. Well, I don't know if I want them to go get this guy, but to me, Jakobi Meyers, the wide receiver for the Patriots. Patriots are notorious for not paying wide receivers and running backs. And I just don't think that he's going to be back in New England. And for me, he is the perfect addition to that receiving group that they need. He can be Justin Fields' safety net. He is that intermediate route runner that plays in the slot. And you can put him out wide on an island and he can burn guys with routes that's just not his specialty. And I don't know. I like the fit of Jakobi Meyers going there. Young quarterback needs that safety net over the middle. Darnell Mooney is kind of their deep threat speed guy, and you have Chase Claypool that's kind of the jump ball at true X receiver. And for me, I just think Jakobi Meyers fits that system really well. They have the cap space to potentially overpay him a little bit. He's projected to get around $12 million a year, and I mean, I think they could get away with giving him 15 for 15 over 3. So what, 3 for 45?
Yeah.
And it's like New England won't pay him that. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody else that would really give him that money. So.
Well, and he's definitely benefiting too from a weaker receiver free agent class, and also too not entirely a deep receiving. Well, sorry, I would say not entirely an elite receiving draft class.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good. It's deep, but you're not going to get a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson in your first round. I mean, there's some good guys that'll be drafted in the first round, but so Jakobi Meyers definitely benefiting from that. I also think too that would benefit Justin Fields a lot. Yeah, it's because those two guys. Both guys are just consistent. Jakobi Meyers, he is a great possession receiver, as you said. You put him in the slot, he can be someone that he can rely on, and as he improves on his accuracy and his throwing, growing into a quarterback as a more, and also too, he can be a shifty guy if you want to do some RPOs that can become really effective within that offense. And so I agree. I think that with the style of play, I think that they want to do with Justin Fields. I think that adding those two players would be huge for Justin Fields' growth within that organization.
And another thing too, just to like schematically, what Jakobi Meyers is really good at doing is pulling the linebackers kind of off the line of scrimmage, because he loves to sit in those 10 to 20-yard zones over the middle. And if you don't have a linebacker there, I mean, that's all day. He'll do that all day.
And then hey, that's going to open up running lanes too for Fields and Herbert.
Yeah, and so for me, to me that just makes sense. I hate, as a Patriots fan, seeing Jakobi Meyers go, especially like there's literally nobody else on the Patriots receiving core that I trust as much as him.
Y'all have Tyquan Thornton.
Yeah, we do. Again, there's nobody else on the Patriots receiving core that I trust as much as him. So maybe Bill O'Brien can fix that, but we'll see.
We'll definitely see. I do think Orlando Brown and Jakobi Meyers would be great fits for the Bears. Let's segue over, though, since we just talked about Jakobi Meyers. Let's segue over to your team, as there's a player that you really want the Patriots to get this free agency. And I think he's a solid player. And
he is a solid player.
Yeah.
So he's a guy that the Patriots are really, really familiar with. He is a unrestricted free agent from Buffalo. It's Tremaine Edmonds, the inside linebacker. But however, he's a true Sam strong side linebacker. I want to say he's like 6'4", 240. However, this past year he had his best coverage year. And I think New England, they're like 7th right now in cap space, but I think Trent Brown might be a cap casualty, as well as Hunter Henry. And that would clear up about another 20 to 25 million in cap space, and put them at almost 60 million in cap space. And to me, I think you do that, you go out, you grab a Tremaine Edmonds, and you really solidify that front seven, because the Patriots, their defensive line is really good, but their linebackers over the past few seasons have been average, right? They took a chance on a guy from Miami, Raekwon McMillan, who was kind of that last year, but he just wasn't that against some of the more elite offenses that they face. And I think if you bring in Tremaine Edmonds, you solidify the middle of that defense. He's a very high character guy. He's a natural leader. Devin McCourty, the safety, is probably going to retire. So shoring up that front seven even more, I think, is going to be necessary. But scheme wise, I think Belichick would just have a field day with a Dante Hightower-esque linebacker who you can put on the outside. He can play in the middle. He's definitely going to be the guy calling plays out there. And I just really like that fit. I know that's a projection that a lot of people have made. But I love the fit. I love the fact that Buffalo does not have the cap space to really pay him. And I just think that's going to be a true free agency target for the Patriots because you add a great player to your roster and you take them away from your division rivals. So that's a big one for me.
Well, especially too, I didn't realize how much more additional cap space they can add.
Yeah.
So they get up to like 60. How much were they paying Hunter Henry?
Oh, his cap hit is like $10.5 million.
They were paying Hunter Henry $10.5 million.
Yeah. So when they 2 years ago, when they had all the free agency money, they broke the record for the most guaranteed money. Jacksonville broke it this past offseason.
Christian Kirk helped out with that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they spent they had $180 million in guaranteed. Like they blew New England out of the water by like $30 million. And they gave Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, I want to say like $60 million of the $150 million
on two tight ends.
Yeah, on two tight ends. But wow. You have to think about it. Jonnu was coming off his third 600-yard season in a row with 8 touchdowns receiving. That doesn't include his rushing. And then Hunter Henry had like 13 touchdowns the season before. And Hunter Henry has been good.
I know. It just, for me, and that's a fair point for me. Yeah. When I think about how much, like, that's a lot of other money that could have gone to other receivers. Yeah, receivers that could play every down that are much quicker and provide more of a threat.
So you want to know something that's actually quite hilarious? New England had the highest paid receiving core in 2022. Nelson Aguilar made $15 million. Devontae Parker made $9 million. Jakobi Meyers was making $8 million. Kendrick Bourne also like $8 million. Like that, and if you add that up, that's like almost $40 million. It's like you could have gone out and paid Devontae Adams his $20 million, and then gotten 3 other dudes that would have been like, okay, well, Devontae Adams is double covered. We'll win a one-on-one 1 out of 4 times, and then like, I don't know.
That's funny to hear you say that, just in our last segment, you just said how Patriots don't pay receivers. That's why Jakobi Meyers is kind of walk.
They don't pay their own receivers. Like, if that makes any sense, right? Like they'll draft running backs and they'll draft receivers, and then they don't pay them in free agency because the market's too high.
They just go and get veteran.
But then they'll just go and get veteran talent, and they overpaid clearly. But like they'll go get veteran talent that's more proven than try to draft and develop receivers, which they haven't done well throughout their history. So I think Bill Belichick is going to go free agency heavy, defense heavy in free agency, and then I'm hoping he goes a little bit more offensive focused in the draft and gets some young players around Mac, offensive tackle, maybe draft and develop a young wide receiver in.
Yeah,
maybe. Who knows?
Even what you're saying, like cutting the tight ends, they're in a prime spot to get like Michael Mayer or Dalton Kincaid with their first pick, and so that's kind of about where they would be projected to go. So I think adding Tremaine Edmonds, who I think would probably get maybe like $14 million, I would think over like 4 years, or $14 million per year of like 4 years. I think that would be fair, maybe a little bit more, just to try and get him over there, and especially also away from Buffalo.
Let's see. Yeah, he's probably looking at 12-ish million.
Okay. So 14 would probably definitely get him over there if he'd want to leave Buffalo. So, but it's interesting to see with New England, especially also what they can do with the numbers by cutting some players. And so I think that would be a good move for them, like, especially as you said, shore up that front 7. And if they don't want to go tight end with their first pick, there's a lot of good corners as well that they can go in the first round to keep adding to that secondary.
Yeah.
Even though, let's be honest, Patriots are going to trade back.
Well, they're going to trade back, and then they're going to draft Anton Harrison, the tackle from Oklahoma, or an edge rusher that falls. They're like, don't get me started. I could talk about this all day, and I could roast the Patriots draft for the last 14 years. So let's move on to your team. Atlanta Falcons second most cap space, and they can clear more if they make a few key cuts. I want to say Caleb McGarry is on that list.
No, Caleb McGarry is a free agent. The one you're thinking,
okay.
they're going to cut Marcus Mariota, which is going to clear up $12 million in cap space. And then I'm sure and that's just that one. I'm sure they'll do a couple other ones as well that maybe be $1 million here, $1 million there. I can see them being in the low 70s, just shy of Chicago in cap space. And I mean, as PFF said, and it was a great troll, Atlanta needs everything. and it's very true. They don't need right guard. That's the one thing that they really don't need. Chris Lindstrom's arguably one of the best players. Maybe up there with Grady Jarrett on the team. But the Atlanta offense actually wasn't atrocious all of last year, considering how bad Mariota played, considering Pitts also was clearly affected by that. And then he missed the final 5 games, I'd say, due to surgery and injury. But Drake London had 1,000. I'm pretty sure he had 1,000-yard season. Can you double check that for me? I know Tyler Algier
He was the highest rated rookie receiver this year.
Okay. That's what I thought. Tyler Algier, their running back, 5th-round running back at BYU, had 1,000-yard receiving. And their offensive line actually stayed healthy for majority of the year. And
he had 866 yards. But off 72 catches, averaged 12 yards a catch.
Well, and a lot of it too, I think he had like 400 in the 4 games that Desmond Ridder was quarterback. So some exciting things on offense, all things considered. I think that Arthur Smith system is starting to work in. But then just like usual Falcon form, the defense sucked all year. And so for me, the clear one that sticks out to me is I think you can get 2 birds with 1 stone. Is they're bringing in a new defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen from the Saints. I think he might switch up their defense from a 3-4 to a 4-3. Grady Jarrett's going to need a running mate, a proven running mate. You have a lot of money to spend. Go get Darren Payne, who had 11.5 sacks. Deron. Sorry. Deron Payne, Mr. Payne, who had 11.5 sacks as a defensive tackle with Washington Commanders. I think you put those 2 together, and that is going to help out your young edge rushers. It's going to help out anybody you draft, help out anyone else you bring in, just because there's going to be so much attention on the interior. Grady Jarrett has consistently been one of the top defensive tackles in the league, really kind of since he's been drafted, even in the Super Bowl. Because he got drafted in 2015. He's going to be 30 or is 30 going.
I didn't realize he was that old.
He's been a while. He got drafted. I'm pretty sure he got drafted with Vic Beasley. I'm pretty sure he was in that same draft class. Yeah, and they played together at Clemson.
Side note, did you hear Vic Beasley is going to be playing in the XFL?
I saw that. Yeah. He was one of the headliners. And I'm like, at least you're still playing football, my man. But anyways, to me, though, Falcons have had the worst pass rush over the past couple of years. And going again, Deron Payne, did I say it right? There's a Darren. Deron. I think that would, instead of keep thinking edge rushers, let's think of let's put so much attention on the middle that maybe you have these one-on-one matchups and you can maybe send blitzes on one side on a weaker side. And there's just so much focus on these 2 guys, and that can help stop the runs up the middle, make them have to run on the outside, where we do have some speedy linebackers. They're young and a little inexperienced, but I still think that they're speedy. And I think that's going to be the best place to start. I think he's worth every $19 million that you're going to have to pay him over the next 5 years. He's young. He's only 24. He'll be 25, I think, when the new season starts. So you can get him for the next 5 years. And then once on Grady Jarrett, you have him under contract for the next couple of years till he's 32. If he wants to retire or move on to go get a Super Bowl, or try and go get a Super Bowl, I totally get it. Or if we're a Super Bowl contending team by then, probably not. But then I think then you have this good transition. I think you can lock down a great player for a long time.
Yeah, I love Deron Payne's game. Just extremely physical. And for me, yes, his boost in the pass rush would be fantastic. But you guys really need him in the run game. You guys had the worst, if not one of the worst, run defenses as a whole last year. And that is partly because you run smaller linebackers for a 3-4 system. And they usually have to take on linemen, and they kind of get blown off the ball a little bit. So adding another big, beefy defensive tackle that can get after the quarterback, as well as stop the run, I think would be a huge boost to that defense. You did have one other guy that you wanted to target. This is a guy that was a free agent last year, but go ahead.
Yeah, they franchise tagged him. So for another thing also too is improving on the secondary as well. AJ Terrell is, I still think, one of the better cornerbacks in the NFC. I think that they're going to – yeah, in the NFL, that's true. They also have Casey Hayward on the other side, but he's a little bit older, so I think they're going to draft a younger corner in this draft, maybe in the first round, maybe early second round. But I think that'd be a great fit because there's a lot of good young corners. But the safety there's still some uncertainty. Richie Grant was a pick from a couple years ago. He's improving a little bit. But if they go out and get Jessie Bates out of Cincinnati, another young guy, you can lock him up. I like him. I think that he can be a good fit. I know a lot of other people, there's been other people in Atlanta saying that you can go and get him. But it'd be another one, though. I don't know how much safeties are going for now. I think I saw Marcus Peters was going for like $15 million or something like that. But, I mean, it's Marcus Peters. It's totally different. I think you can get him for $13 to $15 million. And if you combine that with double check that for me. But if you do that and then the 18 to 20 million with Deron Payne, you still have half your salary cap left to go get one of the available receivers on the market to kind of add depth or to re-sign some of the guys that are already there and know the system and improve in other positions. And I think you'd be getting in two young, very talented athletes at key positions on the defense.
So what a lot of people have projected for him is 5 years, 80 million, with 16 million average per year. With only a 30 million guarantee. So after 2 years, you can cut him and save. If his performance doesn't quite live up to the hype. But no, I agree. Especially if you guys are going to switch to a 4-3, having a too high safety system with Richie Grant and Jessie Bates, I think would be phenomenal. He is a little bit more of a leaning towards like a true free safety than like kind of those all-around Swiss Army knife DBs that we see coming out, like the Jalen Petrie that Chicago Bears drafted last year. Richie Grant is much more to that, where he can play in the slot over the top. I think that would give you guys a lot of scheme versatility as well. He's a very good roamer over the top. So
and it's another thing too and I'm reading about what Ryan Nielsen wants to do is he doesn't really want to have like a set defense. I think he just kind of wants to do it all. So to have especially a guy who's a free safety that can go out and be like, hey, if we're doing man this play, I got everything deep, like for assistance. No, who's super quick and just a natural ball hawk. I think that would be great for this system. And keep putting on more pressure on these offenses because it just seems like it doesn't help that we've sucked, but it seems like we just always are just giving up a bunch of yards every single game. And maybe that was the system that Dean Pease had, but he's now gone as defensive coordinator and we have a new guy. So you just want to win games. And I think adding these guys right here, it's going to immensely improve this defense. And with all the cap space that we have, I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah. No, I mean, so this is like your cap space doesn't roll over into next year. If you have the money, spend it. And there's different philosophies on how people spend it. Some people like to go out and get the star player. Some people like to go out and get 4 or 5 good players.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think right now the Falcons need star players and to draft well. They're not necessarily in a let's go spend $50 million on 7 players mentality.
But that's the beauty though. So like let's say it's like we gave Jessie Bates $16 million and then Deron Payne the $20 million or whatever. That's just less than half our cap, $35 million left. So we could go get 7 or 8 guys that are solid players that can fit really well into our system.
Yeah. Well, but you also have to leave room for draftees because you're going to spend about 15-ish million on draftees and unrestricted free agents.
Well, that's fair.
So but yeah, and then possible extensions. I'm trying to think of maybe give AJ Terrell an extension while you have the cap for it. And like maybe do a couple things like that. But I think all the teams that we talked about are in a good position going forward. I actually think the Falcons, very low key, have a chance to win the division next year. I mean, they were competitive in both Saints games. The first Panthers game, the second one wasn't as close.
Yeah. I think I'd have to go back and games. I'd have to go back and look. Well, they won the second one.
Well,
not that mattered or anything.
Yeah. The Bucs,
but I think they only had one game that they lost by more than a single score throughout the entire season for how bad the offense was.
That was to the 49ers, right?
No, the Bengals. We beat the 49ers.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we beat the 49ers like 28-14, I think. And so, and I'd have to just off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember any of the later games, but there were so many close one possession games that like we could have won the division pretty easily if a couple plays go our way. Yeah. But it is what it is.
And that's like, to me, I think that's the beauty of an NFL that is so much closer now in talent. It's like, all right, even if you look at the Falcons, who I don't want to say are completely devoid of star talent, but it's like, okay, they have Grady Jarrett, AJ Terrell, and then Caleb, who's the right guard? You just said his name.
Caleb McGarry.
Yeah. No, that's the.
Sorry. Chris Lindstrom.
Yeah, Chris Lindstrom. That's a BC kid, actually.
Yeah.
It's like, besides those three players, it's like, all right, they don't have anything really elite. Drake London had a really good rookie season. And it's like Olamide Zacchaeus had a good year again. And so it's like, that is competing with the 49ers, who went to the NFC Championship with their third string quarterback. Mm-hmm. And now they might have found a diamond in the rough there with Brock Purdy, but it's fun to sit here and look at this and kind of evaluate all these free agents that are coming in. So
yeah, no, it's going to be a fun off season. It's fun to do these little projections and then just kind of see. It's like it would be awesome if they got those guys and just revamp the defense. Actually, give a little bit of hope at least going into the season instead of this kind of like pseudo hope. It's like, oh, we drafted this player in the 5th round. He's going to be good. I'm like, yeah. How often does that happen? Where a guy
you guys drafted the former quarterback from like South Dakota, Midwestern, Troy Anderson. It was a freak athlete, but it's like he only played linebacker for like 8 games in college.
Yeah, you drafted him. Well, it was the 2nd round too. I think it was the pick with the Colts or the Titans. I forget. Yeah. But just probably pure athletic potential talent. And he actually started to come on at the end. He actually had some special team plays, but he's one. Hopefully, if he keeps growing and he keeps staying athletic, and he seems like a super intelligent athlete and player. So maybe he can help kind of turn that middle part of the defense around.
That's something that like Belichick used to do with Patriots players, is like in the later rounds, he would draft quarterbacks that would play elsewhere. And so like Jakobi Meyers was a quarterback at NC State and then played 2 seasons as a wide receiver. And then like Julian Edelman was a quarterback at Kent State. And then he turned into a close to Hall of Fame level career. I'm not sure if he's quite Hall of Fame level, but a really solid career. And so, like, I just think that's an interesting mix. But no, I think it's going to be really exciting too to watch what happens. Franchise tags start, I want to say February 27th to March 8th, and then free agency kicks off on March 15th. So between now and then, Tyler and I have a lot of content coming out just about mock drafts. What people should do, trade for picks, trade for players. So if you want to join in on our community and watch all that content, go ahead, hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so we can ping you every time we post. And other than that, we will see you guys